But yeah, okay. So now this next topic, this one's yours, Brett, because you're the video game expert, and on Thursday night, Sony dropped some interesting stuff on us, didn't they?
Oh, they sure did. So, Sony announced just like a few days ago, really randomly, they're like, we're going to have a state of play, which is like their little digital presentation to kind of give an update what's going on in the world of
Because
PlayStation.
E3 was canceled.
Because E3's gone, and funny thing too is Jeff Keighley is running his Summer Games Fest, which is sort of like the replacement E3. And at the very last minute, Nintendo Sony actually slapped a Summer Game Fest little what do you call
Oh,
it, like
really?
label on this thing. So apparently this is a part of Summer Game Fest, even though Summer Game Fest doesn't actually start till next week. So I guess this is like, all right, it's a
Good.
little early present, and this is a part of Summer Game Fest. So they added the branding. So there was definitely several announcements. It was like a half-hour presentation. I just want to roll through real quick on a few of them. And they
Sure.
actually opened it up with something, Mario, that is near and dear to both of our hearts. And it's kind of, I don't know if we've ever talked about it on the show, but it is one of the reasons we became friends and like started coming
Yes.
into each other's circle. They
Yes.
announced the long-rumored Resident Evil 4 remake. So they remade one a long time ago. We just recently
Mhm.
got 2 and 3 remakes, while they've been moving the series forward with 7 and 8 with the first person perspective. But Resident Evil 4 is getting that visual makeover with the over the shoulder style, and it was very. They kind of just showed little clips, no real gameplay. Or I don't know, it could have been in-engine stuff, but it was just very little clips of different environments. And
Yeah.
boy, does it look beautiful. I mean, that RE engine that they've developed at Capcom is just like unbelievable. I mean, if you played Resident
Yeah.
Evil 7, Biohazard, or 8 Village, or like I said, 2 or 3, they look incredible. So I
Mhm.
am very excited for this. It's one of my favorite games of all time. I played that game straight through. I don't know how many freaking times I played it on GameCube when it came out as a GameCube exclusive. I played it again
Yep.
on Wii when they re-released it, and I've probably done multiple playthroughs on each console.
Yep.
So yeah, I cannot wait for this. Supposedly they are really, because one of the things I've been worried about is 2 was remade amazing, but for people that played 3, I never played the original 3, and I actually haven't played the remake of 3. But apparently the game was abridged quite a bit. They cut some sections out, and it was a much shorter game. So I'm really hoping that Capcom understands how amazing the original Resident Evil 4 is, and that they are
Yeah.
keeping the entire breadth of the game in there. That's cool if they want to like add some things or maybe tweak little things here and there just to keep us on our toes, and for people that are like played the shit out of that game, have something new and exciting. But I really hope they don't like remove anything. I hope it's just like maybe like if you want to do a little reimagining, you want to expand things, fine, but please do not take anything out. That game is pretty near perfect in my
Yep.
opinion. It really is. So I just cannot fucking wait. So
No,
Resident
stop
Evil
right there,
4,
Han. Yeah.
yeah,
Before you go into further games
please,
and the
please.
thing, I feel like since you teased it, I'm just going to share it here on the show. So the time is it's roughly spring of 2005.
Yeah.
And I'm in a rehearsal for a musical called The Pajama Game at Queens College. And by night, I'm staying up very late playing Resident Evil 4 every night during this point in my life because it had just arrived and I was obsessed with it and the whole new mechanic and being Leon Kennedy again and the crazy setting. And I was just dying for someone to speak to about it. But for whatever reason, a lot of my friends at that time weren't playing anymore. They were all kind of like, "Oh, I'm 19. I don't play video games anymore." Funny how things have changed.
Right.
But yeah, so a lot of my friends weren't playing with it, and suddenly I'm at a rehearsal for the Pajama Game, and I start hearing this excitable voice somewhere else in the rehearsal space talking about Resident Evil 4. It was amazing. And this guy's a chainsaw. And I always hear this person really. I'm like, I gotta find who that is. And that person was Brett Miro.
It was me.
And I went over, yeah, and we started talking and we started fanboying over RE4. And lo and behold, it's funny how to think. Here we are 17 years later, and we're talking about an RE4 remake on our podcast.
Yeah.
Life's a trip.
It really is a blast. So
Yeah.
yeah, and
Right.
and we also got a release date. It is coming out March 24th, 2023. So we do have some time to wait.
Okay.
But we got an actual date, and surprisingly not for Capcom, but just for any video game company, they've been like pretty legit when they've been announcing release dates. They've been
They
hitting
stick
all
to
of
it.
them.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
the
yeah.
last several Resident Evil games, I don't think anything's gotten delayed. They've been like really nailing down their production timeline. So
Unlike
I feel
Nintendo.
confident. Yeah, unlike anybody. I mean,
Yeah.
really. If you really wanted to talk some shit, Microsoft like had to delay two of their huge titles from the fall, and they
Yeah.
have no first party games announced coming out the rest of the year.
Hmm.
That's fucking bad. Anyway,
That is bad.
so that was the first announcement. So you start off with that. The next, I'm not going to go through all of them. Like I said, there's a
Yeah.
couple that I wanted to pick out. The next one that was really cool was this game Stray. I may have talked about it before. It was announced like a year or two ago. They kept showing footage of it, and I've been waiting to hear a release date. The premise is you're actually like a cat, and the reason I actually give a shit about it is that you're a little orange, like tabby cat, and it reminds me
Maybe
of my cat
obsessed.
Phil,
Yeah.
who I lost
Yeah.
last year, and I was just like, oh my god, this is like Phil speaking to me. So you're a little cat, and you're in like this futuristic world that is filled with robots. The art
Uh,
style is kind of like realistic, but it has like this really, really just cool look to the world and the way like the robots are. They look a little like retro and like CRT TVs and screens, and I don't know, it just looks really neat. And yeah, you're like kind of platforming around and exploring, and it doesn't look like a combat game. You're a cat, so you can't really fight things, but it looks like
Well,
there's enemies out there, and you're just trying to like dodge them. And I don't really know anything else about it,
yeah.
but it
Well,
just
in the
looks super
description
intriguing.
I read, it said you could do lots of cat things like knock stuff down and lick your own butthole.
Yeah,
So
I
it's
think someone was being snarky. I don't know if you can
okay.
do that, but yeah, but
Well,
like
I
yeah,
hope you can. I've always wanted a game where I could lick my own butthole.
I've always wanted to do that. That's how
I bet
you recover
Shigeru
health.
Miyamoto was always dreaming that we'd get here one day.
Yeah, one day we'll be there. Realistic cat ass licking. So yeah, but I don't know. The game just looks very intriguing. I love the way it looks. It's obviously gonna be running, I think, on like PS5, and
Yeah.
I don't know if it's announced for anything else other than PlayStation right now. Maybe a PC, but it looks really cool. So I don't know. If you don't know anything about it, it's called Stray. Check it out. It looks like something that might be
You
up my
can lick
alley.
your own butthole.
And yes, you can also lick your own butthole. That's probably the most important takeaway here is that you can lick your own butthole. And I don't think that's true. I actually hope you can't, because that's really gonna that's gonna be the only thing anyone's talking about, and it's gonna like totally overshadow
It's the
the
only thing I'm going to do. I'm
the
going to
only
buy the game just to do that.
press X to lick butthole. Uh, Now the other announcement is the Callisto Protocol. So this is a game we've known about that's being developed. It's actually, if I'm not mistaken, being developed by the creators of PUBG, or it has some kind of link to them. That's Player Unknown's Battlegrounds, for those that are not in the gaming world. Uh, Now, also, the person heading up this project, if I'm not mistaken, was the creator or one of the lead minds behind Dead Space, which is a beloved
Oh,
survival horror
okay.
franchise. Resident Evil in space, more or less. And this game also looks like it takes place in space. And from what I've seen of this trailer, it gave me huge Dead Space, Resident Evil vibes, maybe more Dead Space. And it looks fucking gruesome and bloody and gory and horrifying and scary. And I'm all in. So the Callisto Protocol, I would highly recommend you check out that trailer. It looks gnarly. Interestingly enough, we are getting a Dead Space 1 remake from the ground up reimagining in
Oh, wow.
January.
I
EA,
hadn't heard that.
a studio at EA, I forgot if it's Motive. I don't know which team it is, but they're actually developing it from the ground up, brand new. So it's not just like a remaster, and they're going to be like expanding the lore a little bit. And the hope is, I guess, that this does well, they will maybe, either do a reimagining of the second one too, or maybe they'll use that to like jump off and make like a brand new, like a Dead Space
Mm.
4, something we never got. So interesting enough that this is coming, and this is coming out December 2nd, so it's coming out like a month before the Dead Space remake, unless that gets delayed. So that's going to be interesting. There's going to be a lot of comparisons back and forth, but hey, hopefully they're both good, and we get two new awesome survival horror entries to play within the next 6 to 7 months.
I'll
The
take it.
final thing that I want to talk
I
about,
see what you did there. Yeah.
I didn't actually plan to do that. That was good.
Oh,
Is
really?
actually, yeah, no, I didn't do that. So Final Fantasy 16. So we've known this game is in development. We know it's coming out. We got a nice, pretty new trailer. Listen, Square Enix knows how to make a beautiful looking video game. We know that they are just like masters of cinematic storytelling and just the visuals of the game. So what I like about Final Fantasy 16 coming off. So I'm just to get a little background. I didn't play like the original NES Final Fantasy, and it's not something that I like desire to go back to now, just because it's very slow and grindy, and doesn't have like the quality of life improvements I expect out of a game. I fell in love with the Final Fantasy series from Final Fantasy VI. It's known as 6 in Japan. In America, it was called Final Fantasy 3. So that's what made me fall in love with Japanese RPGs and the series in general. I actually did not play Final Fantasy VII when it initially came out because I did not have a PlayStation. I know that's like kind of everyone's favorite. Having now played both of them at this point, Final Fantasy VI is better. Don't at me. And I skipped actually a lot of Final Fantasy, so I didn't really actually haven't played that much of the series. But I jumped back on board with Final Fantasy 15, which was kind of a mess when it launched. And we know there's like this whole, you can go track the development of that game. It was in development hell for years. But despite the mess that game was, I absolutely adored it. I loved it. I fell in love with it. I put like 125 hours into it.
Wow.
I did like the extra special dungeons after beating the game. I got all the like best armor, the best weapons. I was really, really into it. Then we finally got the Final Fantasy VII remake, which was long rumored and everyone was hoping for, and I played the shit out of that, and it was awesome. And I have played the original now at this point, so I got to enjoy the remake, and actually get where it came from. But that game's also tremendous, and we're waiting on part 2 of that to come out. So I'm in a Final Fantasy renaissance now. I love these action RPGs. I like that they've kind of gotten away from the turn-based, but there are little elements of turn-based in there if you want them. You can still kind of slow down the combat and do that. So anyway, FF16 now is coming out, and it looks like they're fully going back to this like medieval style of the game. A lot of the Final Fantasy, especially recent years, have had this kind of sci-fi tinge to them, a little more futuristic steampunk kind of mixed with fantasy. And it looks like for this one, they're going back full fantasy mode, which like, might as well. It's called Final Fantasy. So give me that high fantasy look. Like I said, it looks stunning. There has all the big summons that you would expect. In this game, they're called icons with a weird spelling because whatever, EIKON, instead of, I think in FF7 it was the materia and they were called summons. FF6 they were called espers. They have a different name for it in every game. But yeah, interestingly enough, it looks like that's a really big part of it. They looked like there were like giant kaiju battles between the summons, and it looked just friggin' awesome. So I wonder how that's all going to play out. And it looks like there's going to be a lot of political intrigue. It's about this like new world, this new land, and there's like 6 different realms with different rulers, and each one of them is represented by one of these like icons. And I'm really into the story. It's actually the director that's been directing the Final Fantasy 14 MMO, which we know when that launch was a giant mess, but now is like one of the top MMOs ever, and supposedly it's amazing, and they just like totally stuck with that game and overhauled it, and like a lot of people are even saying it's like the best Final Fantasy. Like it's incredible. Supposedly I don't play PC games, so and I think it might be on consoles too, but it's not something I'm going to dive into. But yeah, it's that guy. So he's got a lot of goodwill after what he did with that game, and they're doing that. Interestingly enough, though, we had rumors recently that the game was basically done. It's playable from start to finish, and they're just polishing. So I was expecting it to maybe like get a surprise announcement to drop this year, but they gave a window of summer 2023. So we have a whole nother year to wait for this game, but I don't think it's going to disappoint. It looks pretty amazing, and that's going to be harnessing like the full power of the PS5. So I am very excited to jump back into my crazy, too much dialogue, wild particle effects everywhere, numbers flying out, crazy little bars, doing some fucking moves, doing some fucking specials, abilities, maybe having a party. I'm not even sure if there's a party because I just see this one brooding like dude with dark hair that's just beating the shit out of everybody. Looks great. I don't know. I'm in. Let's do it. FF16, baby. So that was Sony's State of Play. So that's my quick update. I don't know. Street Fighter 6 was in there, but I'm not into fighting games anymore, and that's coming out next year. And one honorable mention. There was something called Roller Drome, which is like this like kind of animated looking art style. But I don't know, look kind of cool. Like you're basically a person on straight up on roller skates with guns, and you're just like roller skating and doing stunts. Like it looked like Tony Hawk meets like a third person shooter. and I was like, this looks kind of weird and kind of cool. And yeah, we'll see. Like maybe I'll dip into that when that comes out. I think that might be coming out in like August or something. So could be
Yeah.
something fun, depending how much it costs. I don't know.
Yeah. You know, in all, I feel like it doesn't say much about Sony's state of play when the thing we're most excited about is a remake from a game that came out 17 years ago, you know?
Yeah.
But all
We're
right.
really feeling the effects of COVID on game development. Everyone thought we
Yeah.
were feeling it in 2020, 2021, but like now is when you're really feeling it, when like most of these developers and companies have probably had games in development and we're like 2 years along, and that all the COVID and the work from home stuff really set people back. And now this year they're all having to like rescope and be like, yo, we're not hitting a 2022 release
Yeah.
date. Internally that they planned, they're just not hitting it, and that's why you're not getting these announcements. So hey,
Yeah.
it's a backlog year. You go
Yeah.
into your backlog and play some old games.
I put myself into the shoes of the people who have to put together these kinds of presentations
Yeah.
and being like, hang on, really? This is what we got?
Do we
A
have
big
anything
thing?
to show?
Yeah, we're gonna show people a remake of a game that came out 17 years ago and has had like 4 different reissues already.
Right.
Okay, let's do it. I guess that's what we are. That's what we've got, you know.
That's what
But
it is now.
all right, so that was Sony's state of play.